Hello, friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
128.
So we missed a couple weeks, and the last time you all heard from us, we were also on the road.
Yeah.
You can probably hear some road noise. We are back with another road trip ramblings, but this one's going to be a little bit different.
This one we have a little more of a specific topic.
We do. It's not just going to be a train of thought discussion. And what we're talking about this time are staycations.
Yeah.
And the reason we're talking about staycations is that we are currently on the road for a staycation.
We're on our way.
We are on our way. What are we doing this weekend, Sherry?
We are going to the Mount McKinley Princess Wilderness Lodge in Trapper Creek, Alaska.
You know, we've talked a lot about here on the podcast and over on our YouTube channel, traveling. You guys know we love to travel. You guys know we love vacations. We put a lot of time and effort into planning those things. And a lot of times when we think of travel, we think of the big trips.
Yeah.
But traveling doesn't always have to be those huge week, 2 week, thousands of dollar kind of vacations.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about today, the importance of staycations, how we approach them, why they matter to us, just sort of our staycation discussion guide.
Yeah, I think how our thoughts about staycations have changed over the course of our marriage.
So let's even start there, because staycations are something that we value a lot now and do a lot more often now.
Yeah, but when we were early married, so we've been married almost 19 years. We had 19 years in September.
Yep.
But when we were early married, honestly, that is when the staycations would have made a lot more sense for us because we had very little money.
I agree, yeah.
And I think that we sort of felt like we had to, like all of our extra money had to go in the travel pot and for like one big vacation a year.
So, yeah, early in our marriage, it was one vacation, 2 vacations a year. They all tended to be bigger trips. They tended to be more purposeful trips. We didn't really do, I mean, with a few exceptions, but we didn't really value or prioritize or plan these smaller weekend staycation type trips.
Right.
One of the things that I think kind of spurred us to do that, honestly, was COVID.
I think so, yeah. I mean, because we couldn't fly anywhere, we couldn't go anywhere. And so we kind of just started, well, let's jump in the car and go somewhere this weekend that, we can get to.
And I feel like that, doing those more often, seeing more of our own state, sort of gave us a taste to just continue that and do more of that.
Right. And then, me with my job change last year and now working for Princess, I think it kind of opened up more places to stay around the state for a lot less money because I do have my employee discount. So,
well, traveling,
that helps.
It helps huge because in Alaska, summertime is peak tourist season.
Yeah.
And so the rates on everything go up.
Every Airbnb, every hotel, every flight.
And so I feel like, especially for the first, decade of our marriage probably, traveling in the summer in-state was for the most part camping. Because that's what we could afford to do, but you hate camping.
I hate it more now than I did then. I have never been a good sleeper ever in my life. And so camping has always been a little bit difficult for me. Camping in Alaska in the summer is very difficult because it's very bright. So camping's never really been my jam, but we did do some camping when we were younger.
And I think the reason is that it's affordable.
It's affordable, yeah.
Hotel prices in Alaska are just so high. But yeah, now with your new job, we can go places and travel in the summer in-state and not basically go broke.
Right, yep.
So we've been trying to prioritize that, use that benefit more to get around Alaska more. Sherry, what is it about staycations that you enjoy?
I like getting outside of our bubble, I think. And we kind of talked about this a little bit. Like, for me, I think I could stay in a hotel room in Anchorage, like downtown Anchorage, and feel like I got away. But there is still a piece of my brain that's like attached to work, attached to home. I'm, if I'm not sleeping great in a hotel bedroom, like, or room, why not just go back home? Like, we're right here. We're 10 minutes away. I could sleep in my own bed tonight. So I feel like there's kind of that, like, there's still that connection to town that maybe removes a little bit of the relaxation, but I can relax in a hotel room in Anchorage. But I think it's just getting outside of what we know that just feels like we're on vacation.
Is it restful? Does it give you like a mental break? Like, what do you get from it?
Yes, I think especially because, like, being in a different place, and again, it is harder in Anchorage, but like being in a different place, I think expands your mind, expands your, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but like, I feel like it is relaxing because it's a different place.
Okay.
And I feel like there's a lot of times, like, we'll go and like do something, regardless of where we're staying. So like, this weekend we're going to Trapper Creek. We have a few things planned that we know we want to go do, but we also know that there's a very large, very beautiful deck at this hotel, and I'm excited to sit outside in the sun. And we've talked about that, like bringing our books, and we're just gonna relax. And so I think that is something that we tend to not do often at home. It's just like sit outside and relax, or just today's purpose is to finish this book.
Isn't that your purpose every day?
Well, sure.
I was just gonna say maybe not the best example,
but for you, like, to actually sit down and relax. And then honestly, that's more relaxing for me. Like, there is always a piece of my brain when I'm sitting reading at home thinking I should probably be doing laundry, or I know that there's dishes in the sink, or like there's always something else in my brain that I know I probably should be doing.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about. So I have a couple favorite things about staycations. First of all, is what you talked about. It's that just kind of detachment from the ordinary,
mm-hmm.
That I think gives your brain a momentary rest. I think that it is a part of a healthy rhythm. To me, the way that we vacationed the first decade of marriage, it was sort of like boom or bust. Like when we were home, we were just like so focused on work and life and busyness and all of that, and then we would just, oh God, we need a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like almost like ping pong back and forth. I feel like adding staycations has helped us to create a healthier rhythm.
Right.
Because it's not always like exhausted or well rested. You're kind of staying in this sort of in between where you're getting enough breaks in just kind of normal life,
mm-hmm.
that you're not feeling that overwhelmed, that you're not feeling that exhausted or that burned out or tired.
That stress.
Yep. And so it's like we're getting breaths more often.
Yeah.
And I love that. The other thing for me, I'll touch on you talked about like the staying in Anchorage thing.
Yeah.
So we are different in this way.
Yeah.
To me, I enjoy, like, staying in a hotel in Anchorage, super fun. Great night. It is never restful or renewing, or it doesn't feel like a staycation to me at all.
Because you're not, like, removed.
Because I'm not removed. It's like, I literally could see this, I do see this on a normal Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels too close to normal to feel like a break.
Yeah.
And so it can be a fun experience. Like, we've had a great time going and staying at some local hotels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun experience. But to me, it's not that breath or that break that I want from a staycation. This is one of the things we were talking about before we started recording. It's difficult because I think every place and every person is different.
Yeah.
So in Alaska, our state is giant.
Yeah.
Our staycation a couple weeks ago, when we stayed in Denali, we drove 4 hours to get there.
4+ hours, yeah.
And so some people that are listening to the podcast right now, if you drove 4 hours, you could be like 2 states away.
Right.
And it's more like a vacation than a staycation.
Uh-huh.
So I think what qualifies as a staycation is different for everybody based on their environment.
Well, and I think it's also different. I mean, we were even talking, like, it's even different within our state, because at first we were like, if we have to fly somewhere like Juneau, then it feels more like a vacation than a staycation. Like that, it feels a little more elevated. It feels like farther away. It's an 1.5-hour flight.
But
then, we were like, okay, so if we flew to like Fairbanks, because it's a 6+ hour drive, if we flew to Fairbanks, it's like a 45-minute flight.
That still feels like a staycation.
That still feels like, if we went to Fairbanks for the weekend, that would still feel like a staycation to me. But if we went to Kodiak for the weekend, that feels more like Juneau. But Kodiak is also a 45-minute flight. So I don't know. Like, it's, I think it depends on the location.
And the person.
Yeah,
because to me, I would say for me, Kodiak feels more like a staycation, like Fairbanks.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I think it's dependent on the person. But I think the biggest value for us is that the regular breaks just help kind of the normalcy of life not feel so monotonous and overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be a weekend at a princess resort. It doesn't always have to be, like, for me, camping is 100%. I get the exact same renewal and rest and break in a tent as I do at a resort or a lodge.
Oh, and like camping for me it's so stressful.
It's a setback for you.
It's a setback for me. It's it's so much work to set up and tear down and to take care of every meal and everything is a whole to do.
Well, it's one of my favorite things because when you did it earlier in this podcast, I'm so glad that I didn't interrupt you, because when you talk about camping, you always say it's like, well, I just don't sleep well. But here's the thing. There's literally nothing about camping you like. It's not the fact that you just don't sleep well.
Right.
Like, it's basically everything about camping.
I don't like bugs. And the thing is, like...
You don't like not having access to a, like, running water bathroom.
Right.
Yeah, you want to sleep on a real mattress.
There's really nothing about camping that I like. And I think, like, the no sleep just adds to it, because then I'm also exhausted and miserable. So I'm, like... If I was well rested and miserable, then it's just like, fine, like I can get through this. But I'm also exhausted because I don't sleep. And so I'm just like, there is literally nothing about this that is relaxing for me.
And I think that's why it's so important to, as individuals or a couple, to, when thinking about staycations, to ask, if it is about more regular rhythms of like feeling renewed and getting a breath, just kind of putting yourself in a space where you can kind of get that breath you need. Mm-hmm. What are the kind of trips, the kind of things that would give that to you?
Right.
Because for some people, you're like me, and it's like, you know what? If I went camping every weekend of the entire summer, amazing. If you never see the inside of a tent for the rest of your life, amazing.
I would be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. And so I think that's the thing, is asking, like, what is restful to me? What is renewing to me? The other thing I think is important, and this kind of goes back to us sort of starting more of this during COVID, is we sort of had the realization that it's like, man, we had been to Ireland, we had been to France, yet we hadn't explored so much of our own backyard.
Right. Yep.
And
I mean, we have a massive backyard.
That is true, but I think that we hear from people in almost every state.
Yeah.
That are like, your Alaska videos have inspired us to explore where we live because we realize we never did that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times we think that if we're going to put in the effort to travel, it has to be the big trips. And I just think we miss out on a lot of smaller trips close to us if we don't do that.
I agree. Yep. And I think that, no matter where you're at, I think that there's something to enjoy around you.
Absolutely.
And, there's things to do and things you haven't seen. And yeah. And I think like weekends, we can't afford to take off weeks at a time,
as often as we'd like.
As often as we would like. And I can't afford to take off days at a time as often as I'd like, which is where these staycations come in really handy. We didn't leave town until 5:00, which means we're in the rush hour traffic. But I had to work today, and I didn't take off work, and I have to be back at work on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we're leaving Friday after work. We'll come back Sunday afternoon, and, you know, it's just this short little trip, but it's enough of a break and enough of a rest that I think that we'll feel like we had a good weekend.
I feel like we used to live vacation to vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like, okay, get another vacation on the book because, like, I've got to have something to look forward to. And now that we've started doing so many of these shorter trips, it feels less like that.
I would agree. Yeah, like, we haven't actually put a countdown on our little countdown board in a while, and I haven't felt like we've needed to.
Because we used to be counting down to the trips like, oh, when are we going to get the next break?
Right.
But these have allowed
116 days until our next breath.
But these have allowed us to have those more frequently.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite staycations we've done? Any local trips that just really stand out to you that you've loved? I have two that come to mind.
Okay, I'm going to let you go first.
So, well, you can think about it?
Yep.
All right, so we went to the town of Seward, Alaska, a number of years ago, and we stayed at this place, and I'm so bummed because I don't think it's an Airbnb anymore. It was an upstairs, downstairs Airbnb. We rented the upstairs unit.
Oh, was that in Lowell Point?
Yep, it was out in Lowell Point,
Yep.
just outside the town of Seward, Alaska, and it was beautiful. It looked right out on Resurrection Bay, gorgeous view of the ocean, the mountains. I mean, it was just beautiful, and we woke up in the morning, and we were making waffles, and we're looking out the window, and there are sea otters playing right there in the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and there's mountains and glaciers, and it was just like, it was just one of those moments that the fact that we got to have something like that on just a quick weekend away
Yeah.
was so amazing.
And we stayed there a couple of times.
And we stayed there a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of our favorite places to go back to.
Yeah.
The other one for me that I think about was so I was going to the town of Soldotna to teach a training, and you came with me, and we added like an extra day or two beforehand just for a little staycation for us to kind of attach it onto my work trip.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent one of the days going around to bookstores. And we had so much fun.
Yeah.
And here's the thing I love about that day is that wasn't a stare at the mountains, look at the beauty of nature, like enjoy Alaska kind of day. That was a going to bookstores in strip malls, going to a brewery, like more of a town kind of staycation. But we had such a good day.
Yeah.
And those are two, like, I could keep going.
Yeah. So actually, this Soldotna one was one of the first that popped into my head.
Sorry, I already took that one. You get any points for that.
Okay. So I have to come up with more.
Yep.
Well, dang it. Okay, so we stayed at a little place in Palmer, Wasilla.
I don't know. I'm
The
not sure
Adventure Chalets.
Oh my gosh. Are you going to tell... Do you remember the full story of this?
Yeah. So we actually booked what we thought was like a hotel room, and we got there, and it was more like a hostel, and it was bunk beds, and we said, no ma'am, no thank you. We would just like a refund, and we will go find somewhere else, thank you. And so we we found these I forget what they were, Alaska Adventure Chalets or something.
Yep. Alaska Adventure Unlimited Chalets.
Okay. Beautiful. I mean, I'm so glad that we stumbled on this place.
Well, do you know how we found it?
I don't remember.
Okay, so it's hilarious that this is one of your stories.
Because you know all the details. But I just remember the place being just beautiful and so comfortable and so relaxing.
Well, I remember the details because it just recently popped up on my Facebook, like, memories, where I posted on Facebook, and I was like, hey, anybody know any great places to stay in the Palmer Wasilla area? Because we had a place booked, we just got here, it's not what we wanted, so we need somewhere else for, like, the next couple of nights. And I sort of asked, and people were commenting on places to check out, but they were all booked, or they were all, like, way out of our price range.
I do remember making a lot of phone calls and nothing being open.
Yeah, and so we were calling a lot of places. And then we found this place called Alaska Adventure Unlimited Chalets. Basically, Alaska Adventure Unlimited is a tour company that has these chalets primarily for their summer tour guests. But in the shoulder seasons, so spring and fall and winter, it's open to locals. They kind of operate it almost like Airbnb.
Because it was around our anniversary, right?
I think
our anniversary, or
I think it was around there. That's right. So like fall time,
late September.
And so we find this place online, and you can't book online. So we called, and we met the lady there. And I remember, I don't know why I remember all of these details. She had just gotten a service done at a local skincare place. So her skin was very red and blotchy, and she was very apologetic for that. Do you remember this?
I do remember this now that you're saying it.
Yeah, she was so sorry. She goes, I'm so sorry, because she didn't expect us.
Right, she wasn't expecting guests.
She wasn't expecting guests. We just called, and she's like, yeah, come on over. Sorry, back to this place.
Uh-huh. It was just beautiful, and so kind of an upstairs, downstairs, like little cabin. And the bedroom was upstairs and really nice, like, living area downstairs. With,
bathroom had like a big soaking tub.
Yep. And I couldn't tell you anything that we did on that stay. I just remember wishing that we could go back, and we have not been back since, but,
yeah, we have.
Oh, we have?
Yep.
We've stayed there again?
Yep, we've stayed there twice.
Wowzers, all right. Well, my memory is less than stellar.
Oh my gosh.
But I just remember loving it, because it was just, and I think it was also like, we were so frustrated that we had this place booked, and it was not at all what it said it was, and, then phone call after phone call after phone call, and nothing being open, and I was just thinking, well, maybe we just drive back home.
So, okay, I'm glad you said that, because that was a conversation we had, was like, maybe this weekend's just not meant to be.
And I remember just me being, like, close to tears.
Yep.
I do think that it was around our anniversary,
Yep.
and I just, like, this was kind of our, the anniversary thing that we were doing, and it was just like, well, we're not staying in bunk beds for our anniversary in a hostel, and I also don't really want to go back home. Like, this is supposed to be our thing. Like, this is our anniversary celebration.
So we kept calling, found this place.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy is that this place ended up being so much nicer than the place that we thought we were originally staying.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this was one of the nicer. It had a fireplace downstairs, full kitchen. It was such a great experience.
Yeah.
That I'm glad that we persisted. And I think that's one of the things, is that a staycation can just be a cabin 45 minutes from home.
Right.
It can be whatever you need it to be, whatever will be restful and relaxing to you.
Yep.
But I think what we have found is that rather than only having a couple vacations or one big vacation a year, having vacations, of course, because I still think those extended times are important. Mm-hmm. But when you sprinkle in these different staycations, it gives you time to reconnect. It gives you time to just catch your breath more often, which I think is just better for life.
Yep, I think so too.
So, gosh darn it, that's what we're doing. And here's what's really funny, is that we don't normally plan staycations very far ahead of time.
No, it's usually a couple of weeks, a few weeks, month. Maybe.
Yeah, I'd say a month or so. So 2 months ago-ish, when we looked at our summer, we had really nothing planned. We had no trips, nothing on the books. Now we've gone to Denali. We stayed at Princess Lodge up there. We're going on this trip, staying at this lodge. Mm-hmm. We're hoping to do 1 or 2 other Princess Lodges. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of quickly fills up, which has been really great. Yep.
Very nice.
All right, a couple more questions, Sherry.
Oh, boy.
When choosing where to go, does it always have to be somewhere new or somewhere different, or are you okay if it's like, man, we went back to the same place 3 times this year?
I am okay with that. I do like going new places, exploring new things, but I am fine going back to a place that we've been, because we don't tend to do this for like the bigger vacations, but these are really, we're basically only there one day.
That's true.
Like, we drive there Friday night, we leave Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, whatever. we're really only there on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think that there's usually enough to do that you could go back multiple times and do different things every time. And based on how my body is feeling, the amount of activity probably varies as well. So there's, like, this weekend is probably going to be a little more relaxation because my body says, no, ma'am. But like last week, or like in Denali, we went hiking and we went, like, we walked around the park and we, we went and did stuff. Because I was feeling better. And so I think it also depends on where my body is at that particular weekend. But I'm fine, like, going back to places because I just don't think that you can do everything around whatever area we're in one day.
And the reality is, I mean, I think this is true in most, maybe not all places, but certainly true here. Different places give different vibes different times of the year.
Yeah.
Right? And so a winter staycation at a cabin in Alaska is very different than a summer or a fall staycation at that exact same cabin.
Yep.
And so, one of the things that I would like us to do, I'm changing the topic a little bit, is I would like us to do more winter staycations.
Yeah. There's not as many places open.
There are still a ton.
But there are still places open.
The lodges are not open.
Yeah, our lodges
Our lodges.
our lodges are not open in the winter, but
there are
other
hotels.
Places that are.
There's a lot of Airbnbs. There's a lot of cabins.
Yep.
And to me, winter staycations, because we're not going snowshoeing. We're not going to go cross country skiing.
Correct.
But winter staycations to me are so relaxing.
They're so cozy.
Especially if you can find a place with a fireplace.
Yep.
And you're just like curled up under blankets, reading books, making hot chocolate. You're away from home and you just get to, they just feel, cozy and restful. Yep.
We stayed at that little place in Talkeetna. Was it last year?
Yep. And that was great.
That was very restful. Like, we binge watched like an entire TV show.
Which we never do.
Which we never do. We just really don't ever watch TV. But, like, it was cozy and we just sat next to each other and watched this really stupid TV show.
And see, that's
just like...
I was going to say, that's the thing with staycations, is that if we were at home, we would never have binged that show.
Right.
Because we would have been like, we have things to do, we got to clean this, we got to vacuum that, we've got to, like, meal prep, I need to go shopping, we've got to do this, we've got to...
Yep.
And so I think at home, it's too easy to get distracted or derailed by all of the things of life that need to happen.
Yep, for sure.
When you remove yourself from that, and I think that's actually why staying in Anchorage doesn't feel as restful to me.
Yeah.
Is that I can still run errands.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, we do need more milk, so we'll pick that up on the way home.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that, like, my mind is still in the environment that we live.
Yep.
And so, like, this weekend we're going to Traver Creek. There is nothing I can do. You know what I mean? Like,
for home.
There's nothing I can do for home.
Yep.
And so, yeah. There you go, friends. Anything else? Any other staycation thoughts? Tips?
I feel like there was one other thing that we were going to talk about, but I don't remember what it was.
I'm sure there were many things.
It's fine.
We are very much looking forward to this weekend.
Yep.
And again, going back to kind of what Sherry said, how the body's different each time. I think it's important when you're going into staycations to ask, like, okay, so what do we need from this weekend?
Yep.
Does this
as individuals and then as, like, together.
Yeah, it's like, does this need to be a restful weekend?
Yeah.
Does this need to be an adventurous or a creative weekend?
Yeah.
Is this a staycation that it's like, oh, you know what? I should pack my film camera and you should pack your sketchbook or, like, paint stuff. What do we need? And staycations are easy to ask that question. Because it's like, okay, so what do we need this weekend? Great, let's look at booking something and going and doing it.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to know from all of you. In the comments, I want to know, do you do regular staycations? Mm-hmm. And when I say staycations, I don't mean, like, we were talking about this, like going to see family. Because sometimes we just default to that kind of stuff. If you live around family, it's like, well, every weekend we go see grandma and grandpa, or every other weekend we go see an aunt and uncle here, we go and do that. Like, I'm talking about, like, things that help you disconnect from the normal.
Right.
Do you do that? Do you do these?
And reconnect to your people right here.
Yeah, yourself, your people, all of that. So do you do these? Is this a part of like your life rhythm? Do you have any staycation tips or even locations that you have loved?
Yeah.
Would love to hear that kind of stuff. So you guys, here's how you do that. Well, you know what, Sherry? You're better at this than I am. How do people do it?
All right, you're going to go to YouTube and you're going to look up LeggLife Podcast. First, you're going to hit the subscribe button.
You are going to hit the subscribe button. So I think we are over 850 subscribers on YouTube, which is crazy because this was just like a... like, we didn't even have a YouTube channel for our podcast for a while. And most people listen to our podcast on Apple or on Spotify. But if you're listening to this, would you mind, even if you don't listen on YouTube, would you mind going to YouTube and hitting subscribe on the LeggLife podcast? It would really, really help us.
Yep.
So, okay, they go.
So hit subscribe.
Yep.
You're also going to hit that little bell so that you get notified when we post.
Uh-huh.
Because while we do try to be every week, it's not always. And you're going to look for this podcast.
The Staycation podcast.
Staycation podcast. And then you're going to leave a comment.
Yep, exactly that. Staycations, are they something you do? Do you find value in them? I will say, though, remember, it's clear that Sherry and I really, really value travel.
Yeah.
In all of its forms, long trips, short trips.
We've kind of built our life around that. So we specifically bought cheaper cars and a cheaper house and that kind of stuff because we wanted as much of our monies to go toward travel as possible.
Exactly. It's one of the areas of life. We talked about this in a vlog a long time ago.
Yep.
Sometimes if you want to live big in certain areas, it means you have to live small in others.
Yep.
And so for us, we've chosen to live small in lots of areas so that we can live big in a few of the ones that are the most important to us, travel being one of them.
Yep.
But we know a lot of people who just aren't travelers and really have no desire. They're super happy with life where they're at. This isn't one of the live big areas for you.
I think that's okay.
That's what I was just going to say.
I don't think that travel is for everybody.
There's not a right or a wrong when it comes to travel.
Right.
We are just kind of sharing what we do, what we enjoy, and want to hear from you. What do you do and what do you enjoy when it comes to shorter, more close to home, quick getaway, staycation type things?
Yep.
Friends, we love you. We are very much looking forward to our weekend away.
Yes, we are.
At the McKinley Princess Wilderness Lodge. We will have a vlog from this weekend up, fingers crossed.
Yep.
On Monday. What's that old saying that like grandparents say? Lord willing and the creek don't rise. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
I think so.
I think I did. Lord,
I'm not really sure.
Now that I'm in my
I did grow up with the Lord willing, but not so much when the creek don't rise.
Lord
I don't know
willing
what
and the
that
creek
is.
don't rise. Basically, it's saying like God willing and if the earth doesn't fall apart.
Sure. I mean, the earth is currently falling apart.
Now that I'm in my 40s, can I start saying grandpa stuff like that?
No.
Please. I just want to be a crotchety old man, Sherry. Just
Lord
let me.
help us all.
All right, friends, we love you. We will see you on the next LeggLife. I almost said vlog. Video.
Podcast.
That's what this is. This
We're
is a
not
podcast.
going to see them either.
Oh my gosh. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.